Hey everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Whiplash, brought to you by our good friends at State Farm and only right here on opensports.com. As always, I'm your host, Sid Rosenberg. Short week next week with all the All-Star break coming up upon us, but there's still plenty of time to make a run in your league. Time to get some expert advice for the second half from RotoExperts.com's Bill Root, whose weekly New Kids on the Diamond column also appears on Yahoo Sports. Joining us right now, my friend Bill Root. What's going on, Billy? How are you?
Hey, Sid. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Nice of you to stop by with us here today as we get ready for the second half of the fantasy baseball season. Some real exciting teams out there, races out there. Let's get right to it. Speaking of New Kids on the Diamond, Bill, two pretty big pitching prospects were recently recalled to the big leagues in Gio Gonzalez and Homer Bailey. Both have looked a lot better in their last few starts. Will they be worth having in fantasy rotations this time around in the second half?
No doubt. I think both of them will be worth having in fantasy rotation. First, Gio Gonzalez, sweet southpaw for the A's. Always has had sick stuff. One of the best curveballs in the game, actually. It's underrated. The problem with Gonzalez has always been his command. You're talking about a guy here that struck out nine per 9 innings in the course of his minor league career. So this kid has his stuff. Now he has a spot with Josh Outman going on the DL with Tommy John surgery. So I think we're going to see the real Gio Gonzalez emerge here with a rotation spot. Homer Bailey struggled in his first two stints in the rotation the last 2 years for the Reds. Now he's on with a split finger pitch that has really changed his arsenal. And he has looked great since he returned here to the Reds in this stint. His last outing, he pitched 7 innings, a little over 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, and 5 Ks. I think Bailey is probably going to turn into one of the breakout young pitchers in the NL. I recommend him in NL-only leagues, and I think you should monitor him in mixed leagues.
All right, Bill, my good buddy Scott Olson, formerly of the Florida Marlins, now with the Washington Nationals, back in the majors after a bout with shoulder tendonitis. In fact, he was 1 out short of a complete game in his second start back on Sunday. So 23-year-old righty Tommy Hunter also has had back-to-back solid outings for the Rangers as well here. What about the kid in Texas, and what about Olson in Washington?
Well, as far as Olson, I had some concerns with him coming off the DL because he really wasn't looking good at AAA. I actually didn't think he was ready to return, but I watched his last 2 starts, and he's looked good. He's keeping the ball down. His stuff looks nasty, and he might be an option. The problem with him is I don't know if it's going to last. When he was in Florida the last 3 years, we saw his strikeouts per 9 go down every year. I think he's a guy you could pick up off the wire, but I wouldn't go jumping completely on board and trading for him and giving up too much. Plus, he's in Washington. We're not going to see many wins out of him. So he's a decent candidate, only, but don't go overboard. As far as Hunter, stay far away. Stay far, far away. This guy really was extremely hittable in the minors. .291 batting average against down on the farm. Has done well in his first 2 starts here since his return to the majors. But he has an 81% strain rate. That means he's stranding. Those runners that are getting on base 81% of the time are not scoring. This is well above his average. He could easily reach a rotation spot with Matt Harrison or Brandon McCarthy return. Yeah, just stay away from this guy in any league. Not worth touching. And if you have him, you want to sell high, this is the time to do it.
All right, Bill, the All-Star Futures game, past MVPs include guys like Grady Sizemore, Cleveland, Alfonso Soriano, the Cubs, Jose Reyes, the New York Mets. It's coming up this Sunday. Give me one hitter and one pitcher who'll make a fantasy impact this season.
Well, one got to watch you in the Futures game. I do recommend that all your listeners tune in on Sunday because this is where the future stars are born here in the fantasy game. Eric Young Jr., you probably remember his father. He's an absolute speed demon down on the farm. He has 47 stolen bases in AAA, and we're always looking for stolen bases here for our fantasy team. So he's also hitting .290 with .379 on base. He doesn't have any power, but he will make a fantasy splash in the second half. The problem is there's no room for him in Colorado right now. Clint Barnes is playing pretty well, and there's a lot of outfielders there at the major league level. But I think they're going to bring him up as a utility guy probably within the next month. And if you tune in on Sunday and watch him play, you're going to be very impressed. He was an absolute standout in the Arizona Fall League and has been the talk of the town down at the minor league level as well. As far as pitcher, there's a guy that's going to come up, I'd say, in 2 weeks, and that's Chris Tillman out of Baltimore. He should be in the majors now, to be honest. There's no reason that a guy like Rich Hill or a guy like Jason Birkin should be up instead of him. 2.69 ERA, AAA right now, striking out 9.19 per 9 innings and only walking 2.46. I mean, this kid has it, and he can make a huge impact in the second half. There's actually a rumor right now that Rich Hill's rotation spot will be skipped even this weekend, so we may see him immediately after the break.
All right, there you go. Okay, Billy, it is toss-up time now. Do we go out with the old and in with the new? Let's start at catcher Matt Wieters, Baltimore, versus Miguel Olivo, the former Marlin. Wieters versus Olivo. What do you say there?
Well, Wieters just got his feet wet here at the beginning of the season, but I think we're ready to see him make a Ryan Braun or even Longoria type of splash here in the second half. He's hitting 375 in July, so this kid's ready to just turn it on. I mean, he's an offensive powerhouse at catcher, which is a premium fantasy position. So you want to jump all over him. Olivo, he's playing well above his head right now. I mean, he has 13 home runs already, approaching his career high. And John Buck is ready to return. Supposedly, Olivo is still supposed to take the majority of the duties, but like I said, Olivo is not going to keep up this pace. He has 71 strikeouts and 3 walks this year. That's not the sign of someone who can perform consistently.
I take Wieters there, too. Yeah, me too. Third base here. Let's go Gordon Beckham versus Scott Rowland in the midst of a big hit streak right now for the Toronto Blue Jays. Beckham versus Rowland. What do you see there, Bill?
Well, I'm going to surprise a few people here, but I'm going Beckham. I've been driving the Beckham hype train for a while now. I mean, he has all the offensive tools, and he's starting to show flashes now. But I really don't believe in Scott Rowland. He's obviously has this huge hitting streak right now, and he's hitting well above 300. But I don't believe he can stay healthy, number one. He's obviously had major back and shoulder problems for the past few years. I mean, he's been a 275 hitter for the past 3 years, and he's hitting 325 right now. It's not going to last. His power game is sapped now from all his injuries, so go Beckham.
All right, let's do this. We do this each and every week here on Fantasy Whiplash. We call it our OpenSports.com Sleeper of the Week for the next week in fantasy baseball. Billy, give me the OpenSports.com Sleeper of the Week.
Well, being a prospect expert here, I have to tell you about a rookie, and that's Garrett Jones, someone a lot of people might not have heard about, outfielder for the Pirates. They have a weekend series on tap. Obviously, with the All-Star breaks, there won't be games at the beginning of the week, but they have a weekend series on tap with the Giants, and Garrett Jones is someone that is getting playing time. He has power, he has speed, and he can hit for average. He's only hitting 295 up in the majors with 2 homers and 2 stolen bases in 27 at bats. I think you're going to see him get off to a real hot start in the second half.
There's your guy. I know, Bill, you like to follow people on Twitter, and I know for fantasy baseball fans, Twitter is a great place to be. I'm there each and every day. Next time we get you on, we'll talk more about that. Bill Root at Fantasy Roots. You can also check out rotoexperts.com for some of the best fantasy advice out there. And as I mentioned earlier, his weekly New Kids on the Diamond column can also be found at Yahoo Sports. Billy, terrific job, buddy. We'll talk again in the second half. Enjoy the All-Star game. Enjoy the break. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
You got it, pal. That's going to do it for this edition of Fantasy Whiplash, brought to you by our good friends at State Farm, only right here on OpenSports.com. As always, I'm your host, Sid Rosenberg. Be sure to come back on Friday as we go down on the farm with Tyler Hissey. Until then, enjoy the baseball. The future of sports on the web is open.